Is tax the path for you? Find out in today's interview with Maryum Ghayur. She's a UTM alum and has had a crazy journey, starting at Deloitte and then moved into industry, working at Aramark and Cisco. And today she works at MNP in the tax department. Let's move on to the questions.
So, looking back at your first year in university, what advice would you give yourself? I was walking through the hallways right now, and I was actually really reminiscing about my first year here. So, I would definitely give myself advice. The only advice I would give myself would be to really learn from all the people around you and learn from all of the different experiences you go through, whether it's like a group project, whether it's something as simple as coordinating with friends, or whether it's just, talking to people and getting out of your comfort zone. Really, you have to learn to learn from all your experiences in life because for all of those people who are going into accounting, at the end of the day, the work you do is you service clients. You are there for your clients. Your clients are people, just like people all around you. So I think one of the biggest skills, and I think this is one of the reasons I always do get the jobs that I go for, is that you really have to show that you understand people, that you are a good listener, because listening is one of those skills that when you're younger you don't really get to master, but once you get older and once you deal with a lot of different clients, a lot of different people, group projects, you really have to learn to listen to understand the people around you, and I think that's one of the biggest skills that all employers identify. And that's skills that your professors identify, that's skills that your peers identify. And definitely I think what I would give my first year self is I would tell myself to learn to be a better, more active listener and more effective listener.
So I know employers are, like you mentioned, all about those people skills, that communication, making sure you work well in a team, but also client-facing. So how would you tell university students and how they could kind of enhance those communication and public speaking and overall people skills? Like how could we potentially, I can't remember the word, but start creating and getting those skills?
Yeah. And I think the biggest, I remember being in university and asking myself and asking everyone around me at networking events the same question, like how do I build those people skills? And I think the biggest gap there is the fact that we keep focusing on the fact that we need to build these people skills, these communication skills, but we're not really understanding why we need these skills. What do we need to do that we need these skills for? And typically, in my experience being in the Big Four, my experience being in MNP, my experience being in industry, is that as an accountant and as a CA, as a CPA, what you really are there for is you're doing the work and you understand the work. You have certain bodies of people that you're communicating with, right? Mm-hmm. You have your boss, your manager, your senior, whoever it is that you're reporting to, that you're doing the work for. Now, communication on that end is very different from the communications that you do with your clients. Mm-hmm. Communications that you do from your clients are very different from communications that you have with your peers. And all those three relationships always have to be kept very, very, very strong, because those are, and that's why you hear all these people, employers and people hiring, focusing on communication. It's because they want you to excel at these relationships, because these relationships are very important for you to succeed, right? So when it comes to communication with your boss or your superior, a lot of the times, anyone who's been in a job position for more than 2 years, they're very busy. Anyone at a senior role, very busy. There's a lot to do. There's always a lot to do. So that relationship and the communication you have with them is when they're assigning you work, or when they're telling you something to do, or they're introducing a client to you, or they're getting you they're getting you used to the client. What you have to do, and the communication you have to master, is to listen and understand. So you really have to take in, what are they saying? You have to understand it to a level and be able to ask questions. So at that point, communication skills are not about public speaking. It's not about being able to stand in front of a crowd, which to a lot of younger people, a lot of first year, a lot of second years is very intimidating. But that's not what you need to be focusing on. You're not going to be giving client presentations. You're going to be asking your superior questions. So you have to confidently, wherever you think that you do not understand something, as dumb as it is, just ask. Because when you ask, you can once the task is assigned to you, you can get back to your desk and you can focus on giving your superior a better deliverable. A better deliverable makes a stronger relationship between you and your superior because now they trust you to do their work the way they like it, right? And you trust them and you have that relationship with them where you can ask questions. And that's one of the types of relationships you have to build. So, and that you don't need to be in a networking event for that. You can be in class, you can sit in the front row and you can ask questions, right? When you don't understand a concept, you don't need to see your professor after class. You should be able to ask a question. Whether they like it or not, that's their preference. And then that's the same thing with a manager that you're working with. Whether they want you to ask it then or after the assigned task, that's something you have to learn to build. But if you don't practice in classrooms, how will you actually do it when you're actually in the workforce? Second type of relationship is your relationship with clients, which comes a little, I would say it comes a little after your first year once you get used to it and you get accustomed to things. And then that relationship is about what I said before. It's about listening and understanding. Recently, I sat in a meeting with a client who had to pay over $600,000 in tax. Just one person, and right when his mother passed away. So he's already dealing with the grief of his mother. On top of that, he's not understanding that we're trying to do a tax plan for him or an estate plan for him where he can save money, but he still has to pay some amount of tax. So it really is about, okay, you have to stop yourself. You have to realize, okay, well, what is this client saying? What are his concerns? Because he's very confused. He's not understanding our plan, right? And he doesn't have the background to understand it. So that kind of a client relationship you build by actually actively listening. So I have to stop myself and I have to stop him and I have to be like, well, what is it that you don't understand? What is it that you're worried about? What is it that's stressing you? And yes, that's a very personal question to ask him. And the first time you do it, you're like, should I not? But you have to have that relationship or that communication skill to be like, listen, we're here for you. We're accountants, but we're still in client service, right? We're always in client service. And I think those skills, the communication skills that you need to build, don't really come from doing group presentations. They come from actually interacting with people around you. So you can learn that client skill just by having a close friend in class who's going through a tough time, by actually going out of your way and asking them. It seems like a very personal thing to you, but you may have to do that at work at some point too. So it really is about, communication really is about interacting with people and understanding people. And it can be done anywhere. It doesn't need to be done in group presentations. So, yeah, I hope that answers your question. Yeah.
So, can you tell us an inside story or scoop of how you landed your full-time offer? And could you mention if any summertime opportunities helped you in that?
So I knew very early on that I didn't want to go into audit. My dad has an accounting firm, so I did do tax with him. I loved it. I enjoyed it. So I think mainly how I landed my position. I didn't go to a lot of networking events, to be honest. I went where I thought I would be interested, and I went just for conversations, right? I love to talk, and I really do enjoy meeting people and talking to them. But I think how I landed my job was just through a mock interview, and I know I sat in a group interview with 2-3 other people. And as I said, the reason that I stuck out, and I spoke to the interviewer after too, and the reason I stuck out in that was because I was in my focus when they asked me on different kind of how would you deal with this, how would you deal with that. I told them I interact with a lot of people, and I showed them that I interacted with clients who are very difficult, and I really learned to listen to them and understand them. And as a tax person, what you really have to do is you have to translate from tax, which I'm very used to. I can quote the Income Tax Act to you, and anything I say to you, I understand because I've been doing it for so long and I love it. But there are very few people in the world who understand the language I speak. So, and I think that's what stuck out in my mock interviews because I could show that skill that I've worked in a small accounting firm and I dealt with a lot of people, and I was able to communicate accounting and tax to them. And I think it's just, as I said, communication, conversations that really make you stick out. But you know what? I don't think there's a right answer for this because I have different friends. All of us have very different personalities, and almost all of us worked in the Big Four at one point. So it really is dependent on you as a person. And I think one of the biggest things, and outside of university, all the other job interviews I've done, it's all about being honest. It really is about being honest. You can tell them, like, you know, you can look at the job description, tell them, oh, I checked this box, I checked this box, I checked this box, but they know, and you know, and I know that everyone is only good at one or two things. Nothing wrong with that. But it really is about selling your skills. What are you good at? You really have to figure out what you're good at, whether it's having conversations, whether it's doing numbers, doing calculations, and selling yourself on skills you're good at and proving that you're good at them. And you don't really, when you're good at something, you don't need to prove it. People can tell. These people have been interviewing people, like, on a day that they had an interview with me, she would have interviewed 20, 30 people already. She can tell who's just checking boxes and who's really selling their skill. And firms don't just need people with good grades, with great communication skills, with really, like, you know, like, on-the-go thinking. Firms need people with all different types of skills and backgrounds. So you will always, you need to show them that this is what I'm good at so that they can see you as a good player for their team. Because essentially you're going to be making, your skill set is going to be used in that big pot, and it's going to get them business, it's going to get them a lot of benefit, right? So you really have to learn to be honest. Whatever you're good at, sell that. Don't just check boxes, and I think that's one of the most important things.
Earlier you mentioned that for you it's a lot of one-on-one conversations being in taxation. Is that only specific to being in the tax field, or is it overall, whether you go into assurance or you go into advisory at the Big Four? Is it similar for all of them?
You know what? Within the same office, on the same floor, in the same group, it's all different. Every single person has a different experience because at the end of the day, you know, like a firm like Deloitte will have X amount of clients. Each client is made up of different types of people with different kinds of management philosophies, right? You can have a company, like a tech company, very laid back. They're all about we just want to focus on growth and doing something, like building something. Versus you have a finance, like a bank, who are like focused on, okay, we need to make sure this is correct, this is accurate. How do we grow this? Every company, and even if you have like two grocery store businesses, right? One grocery store owner or manager can have a completely different philosophy versus another one. Compare Whole Foods to like Food Basics. You cannot say that just they're both grocery stores, but they do something completely different. So I think even if you're in audit or in tax, like it's about the clients you have. It really is. And in industry, it's about the people who are working there. It's about how management likes people to do things. Or is management very they really want to control everything up on their end? Or are they like, let's just let everyone do what they want? So it's so different. It's very different. And that's why, it's really good that you asked that question, because when now, at this age, I know when I was younger and I was out of university, I just wanted that, that Big Four job, right? But I think at this point, once I'm older and I've worked for a while and I've dealt with difficult people and good people and fun people and boring people, I really look towards, when I go for an interview, it's not about whether I'm going to get this job. It's like, okay, what are you like? What do you like doing? I really do try to interview my interviewer, because I don't want to work with people who are difficult, or I don't want to work with people who are just very I want to work with people who want me to grow. So I really try to look for someone who sits with me and who really lets me take the lead on things and lets me figure things out and focuses on my development and my learning. And I think that once you get past that, beginning stage, you really need to focus on. It's about choosing. You can choose who you work with.
One thing I did want to ask you is, since you mentioned at this stage you started interviewing the interviewers,
Yeah.
Being a student and not exactly having that load of experience that you have,
Yeah.
would we be allowed to also, or would you find it offensive if you were the interviewer and I started asking you questions back about yourself, or try to create a more of a conversation rather than you kind of just sitting there and like shooting questions at me? Is that something that is allowed for university students?
You know what? Very interesting point, because I think a lot of us who do interview, we do appreciate that, because you have to understand people at that level are already at that stage where they understand the importance of working with people who are similar to you, who you enjoy working with, and having a good working environment, right? So I definitely think it's very important, and I wish I could stress this to my younger self as well, back on the first question. You really need to work with people who you enjoy. So yes, definitely ask questions. Everyone appreciates it. Everyone understands, and it shows that you really are dedicated to your work. You don't just want to go into a job and work.
Yeah.
You want to work where you can grow and develop and be around people who help you grow and develop. And I think that's the experience that they all want. Like, it's a collective experience that we're all trying to build. And I think that's not only, I think employers are involved in that too. So I would say ask. I would definitely recommend it. Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you.
So, in your opinion, what's easier to get into, industry or an accounting firm?
I definitely think an accounting firm is easier to get into and better to get into. The major difference being industry is designed, as I said, it's very fast paced, right? You go in, you just period in, month-end reporting, lots of reporting. A business keeps going on. Whether a person or individual or a position is there or not, it keeps going on, right? So when you come in, and the other most important thing about industry, it works in processes, right? There's different processes, and you're a step in the process. So when you, even as a, starting up, when you go in, if you go into industry, you're really just jumping in and getting right into the work. So a lot of the times, and I know when I was in industry, when controllers were interviewing, they were a lot more pickier, and they always preferred someone with at least a little bit of experience, whether it's with journal entries or software or just basic accounting knowledge and understanding. And I think their main motivation there is that they want someone to come in and just take over the process, because it's easier for them. Nobody really has time to sit there and walk through. And some companies are really good in industry, are really good at kind of fitting you in. But a lot of the times it is a much faster pace. Whereas in firms, it's very easy for them to build tiers, right? So if someone comes in for a summer internship, they'll put you as X part of this client, X part of this client. They can squeeze you into little processes and get you involved with some of the work, right? Because there's so many different layers of clients happening, audits happening, reviews happening, so much of it that they can kind of fit you in different places. So I definitely think that industry is harder to get in, and also a lot harder for us as a starting point.
If someone does want to go into industry, or even if they want to go into the firm, would you suggest doing summer internships? Would you consider them to be a huge value to undergraduate students?
Good question. Background on me, I didn't do a summer internship. I fast-tracked my undergrad, so I kind of just took school in one go and then started working. And most of my friends took summer internships and then, joined in. So I think there's pros and cons. I think the pros of summer internships are that you do get exposure, and in summer internships, you're not really doing a lot of in-depth work. You're really touching the ice. And summer internship, the pro is that you really get to see and experience different things, to figure out what you want to do, where you want to go. Is this for you? Is this really for you? And they hold that value. But I don't think that having a summer internship in a firm is just the key to your success in the accounting field. I really don't believe that, because, as I said, you as a person decide where you want to learn the skills that you need to excel as an accountant or as someone working in marketing. Yeah. you get to decide how, where you learn the skills that you need to become an accountant or go into marketing or go into finance, right? And whether it's at a summer internship or whether it's just working on campus, whether it's working in the mall, it really is the skills that you choose to pick up from those jobs or you choose to pick up from those activities. It could just be playing sports, right? The skills that you pick up from those different things you do, the interactions, the communication skills you learn, the relationships you develop, all of those are an integral part of you building your skill. And I really want to emphasize that at the end of the day, is you yourself have an individual skill, a personality, a persona, and you need to build on that and develop that in order for you to succeed in the future. If you're not confident in who you are and what you're good at, no one will ever be able to trust you to do their accounting or handle their money or do their marketing. It really is about you building on who you are as a person, what skills you hold, and really marketing those and building on those. So yes, summer internships are important, but so are all the other things that you do, whether it's sports, whether it's photography, whether it's, whatever it is that you choose to do, you really have to make sure that you build on what you are. And I think that's the most valuable thing.
Now that we've heard from Maryum, let's get a little bit personal. Are you ready for Never Have I Ever?
So if you have ever experienced these things or done these things, you have. If not, you say have not.
Okay.
Here you go. So the first question we're going to start off with, never have I ever skipped class. Okay.
Just once.
Just once?
Just once.
Okay. Never have I ever regretted this dream of education, of work.
So being in this dream.
Oh.
Once or twice.
Never have I ever overpaid for campus parking. Yup, it's a big one. Never have I ever been attacked by a deer on campus.
Have not. Does that happen?
I've never had it.
Or, more often than you guys think it does happen.
Oh.
Not that I've been attacked. It's okay. Never have I ever pulled an all-nighter before a midterm or an exam. Big one.
I think everyone has.
So multiple exams or just one or two?
Oh,
Multiple?
Multiple.
It happens.
Yeah.
Never have I ever been caught on my phone during a lecture.
Not really, but I used to have a flash alert on my phone, and I always sat in the front row. So in consolidations in the front row, my prof had to actually stop the course because there was a light flashing right in front of him.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Never have I ever attended a class I wasn't registered for.
I did. I tried doing Spanish, and I wanted to try the class out. It was not for me.
Not for you?
No.
Never have I ever disagreed with my boss.
Every day. Every day. I'm kidding, but yeah, it happens.
Happens. Never have I ever not been prepared for a meeting.
Have not.
Nice.
Yeah.
Never have I ever leveraged my power as a professional.
No. I think you definitely do.
Yeah?
Yeah.
That's it for today. See you at the next one.
Oh, and make sure you like, comment, and subscribe.